We're all set for this final then. A final that is very much a journey into the unknown. Sonia O'Sullivan bidding to become a gold medalist in the European Championships. She already has a gold from Helsinki 4 years ago when she won the 3,000 meters. She was the world champion over 5,000 in Gothenburg, but this is altogether different. Sonia O'Sullivan against the rest. The big names, you've heard them mentioned: Fernando Ribeiro, Paula Radcliffe, of course. And you can go down through the list. Julia Vaquero of Spain, another who might well be there to challenge. Frank O'Mara is watching this too.
As the race has got off to a nice little start, Ribeiro goes to the front. I don't think that's very indicative of anything. The first couple of laps, even in 10,000 meters, are always a little choppy because people are trying to get their position, and the pace is now settled down into something that looks like it's going to be quite slow. Again, tonight seems to be a very pleasant night for running distance running. I don't think we're going to see a lot of athletes training dreadfully, at least not from the conditions, more from the pace, I would imagine.
Well, 10:63 is the Romanian Lydia Simon, 6th in the Olympic 10,000 meters and bronze medalist in the World Championships in Athens last year. Sonia's there, Paula Radcliffe 4:70. The feeling is that Paula Radcliffe, the way she's been training, will be injecting laps of pace intermittently through the race to try and break things up, be content to toddle along with the rest. 72 seconds for now, so it's a very leisurely opening lap. 77.99 seconds. They're not on any kind of schedule yet, but of course things will quicken up.
Yeah, that's very, very slow. Again, the thing is that there was a couple of athletes here who know that Sonia's probably got the most superior finish of everybody, and to them they've got to go at some stage and try to make her hurt. This is very early from home right now, and I think Ribeiro, even though she knows she's got a 30-48 under her belt this year, it's a long way to strike from home, especially when you have another endurance type athlete like Paula Radcliffe sitting on her, and as well Vaquero, the Spanish athlete, is very, very capable.
The other athlete in the white top, Anne-Marie Sandell of Finland, the World and Olympic Championship finalist. But it's the Romanian and Ribeiro, with Sonia O'Sullivan placed in third. And she talked about running in Sheffield and losing her focus. Well, this is a race that demands the ultimate in focus and concentration. It's 25 laps around the track. It's all the same. You've got to keep your mind on the job, got to keep every move covered. You can't afford to let it wander. It's an exercise in half an hour, the ultimate in concentration. The greatest test that Sonia O'Sullivan will have taken upon herself since things started to go so horribly wrong for her career-wise in Atlanta 2 summers ago.
You can see also that her competitive instincts have taken her up right behind Ribeiro. She's used to being in 1,500-meter races, 3,000-meter races, where being in position is so important. Here it's not so important. Her challenge over the first 5K of this race, unless somebody makes a very bold move, which it would be from there, is to relax, to try and block out the first 5K and to turn this into a 5K race in her own mind.
Ribeiro then leads it. Simone of Romania is second, O'Sullivan third, and Radcliffe fourth. Fifth place is Sandell, and then Vaquero with the 14 on her hip is in sixth place, and behind her Maria Guida of Italy. Vaquero, of course, renowned as a cross-country runner, not unlike Sonia herself, a double world champion of the short and the long distance races in consecutive days. So she's proven her endurance in the spring. Now she's got to prove her endurance on the track in Budapest. Vaquero's big Irish rival down the years, of course, has been Katharina McKiernan over the cross.
Yes, amazing how Katharina has translated her form over 5,000 and 10,000 meter running into excellent form over the marathon. It'll be interesting to see if Sonia can transfer her form from 1,500 and 3,000 meters into that kind of improvement over 10,000. This first kilometer was very, very slow, something just inside 33 minutes for the distance. And one of the difficult things about running at this slow pace is that when somebody does make a move, it tends to really shock you, and you have to be very, very alert and ready to react very quickly, because you flood yourself into a kind of a sleep mode trying to get through that first 5K, and then all of a sudden someone moves, and it makes it very difficult to react quickly.
So as it was all the way through the opening 1,000 meters, it's Ribeiro, Simone, O'Sullivan, Radcliffe.
Minden napra valaki felajánlott egy Opel Astrát. A mai napon ezt az Avis
it's important that in these instances you don't strain, you don't overreact to that kind of a situation, and that you work yourself back up gradually towards the front, because it's inevitable that a lot of chopping and changing goes on in slow races, and that you move back to the field and move back up. So unless you want to be in the front, you're going to go through this. I think Sonia's in a position now where she's found herself boxed in a little bit, and she just has to be very, very patient.
20 laps to go, 2,000 meters elapsed, and a lap time of 81 seconds. This really is very, very slow indeed. Ribeiro, Simone, Guida, Giliaeva, Radcliffe moving around the outside, O'Sullivan, Sandel, and Olivera Jevtic of Yugoslavia, the one at the back of the leading group. But it's indicative of the fact that it's such a leisurely pace, that they're all still bunched together, all still, as it were, in contention. Only a blanket almost covering the whole field in this women's 10,000 meter final, on what hasn't been by any means the hottest of nights in Budapest.
It's a very pleasant night for 10k running. We had a rain this afternoon, which took away a lot of the humidity and a lot of the heat that was in the air, and it's been very, very pleasant since. Of course, that would lead you to believe that if it is pleasant, it's also pleasant for Paula Radcliffe, and she may be encouraged to strike for home that little bit sooner than she would have normally.
And what do you make of this tactic that she's alleged to be about to employ, of injecting pace intermittently after every 5 or 6 laps?
Well, interestingly also here that Ribeiro has moved out to the outside of lane 2, has left someone else take the lead. So she's had enough. And she keeps looking to the side all the time, I've noticed, and I'm wondering if she's if something's not happening with her. She has been known for being very regimented in her approach to these 10,000 metres, and she's perhaps waiting for some indication from her coach on the sideline.
Simone, the Romanian, from Ribeiro, Guida, Radcliffe. Sonia O'Sullivan just moved out of the top 5 at the moment. She is in 7th position, but not very far behind, and just finding a little gap on the inside to move herself back into the picture, which is not your picture, but the picture that we're seeing here live in the net in Budapest. There's Sonia, tall figure, just now in 7th, 6th position, jockeying with Sandel outside her.
She has managed to run on the inside so far for all the 8 or 9 laps we've run, and that does make a difference. Over 25 laps if you run on the outside of lane 2, which Paula Radcliffe seems to have done here a lot. You end up running 8 or 9 or 10 metres further per lap, and that all adds up when you consider 25 laps of a track.
Just a check on the old feet there, because obviously with them all so close together, there's the danger of being spiked, there's the danger of losing your balance and your rhythm. And it all has been a little soporific so far, and the point you're making, Frank, about needing to maintain concentration so as not to fall asleep and not to let things develop without your awareness. 18 to go.
And we're coming up to 3,000 metres, and as you can see, the pace is slow. We're going to turn this thing into a 5,000 metre race, and if you look at some of the contenders in here, from Vaquera to Ribeiro, you've got some really good 5,000 metre pedigrees. Ribeiro, as we all know, is the world record holder for 5,000 metres at 14:36, has run some 5 seconds faster than Sonia. Vaquera also has run 14:44, and Paula Radcliffe has run 14:45.
Although it's strung out, Sonia's in 4th position, behind Ribeiro and Radcliffe in front. Jevtic, the Yugoslav, has been pushed back into 5th position. Vaquero, the Spaniard, is very much there in contention at this point. But these are the leading 2. Sonia O'Sullivan has matched them stride for stride. Simone, the Romanian, is in 3rd place. O'Sullivan is in 4th. Jevtic of Yugoslavia is 5. And then a gap has developed behind these. Sonia O'Sullivan is not by any means on the tail of this group, and with the smaller Romanian in her sights, she's looking comfortable as she tracks her down the home straight. Radcliffe has injected pace in the last 2 laps, and the last lap was 75 seconds. This one, 72. So all of a sudden they're lapping at 9 seconds faster than they had been. I think even at this phase, with not even half the race gone, you'd have to be thinking in terms of these 5 disputing the medals between them. Radcliffe, Ribeiro, Simone, O'Sullivan and Jevtic. And what quality we have here. Ribeiro in 2nd place at the moment, 73-second lap again. To Radcliffe, Radcliffe, who holds the British record over this distance and the 5,000 metres, even though she's an unknown quantity as a competitive 10,000 metre runner. Sonia O'Sullivan running her very first competitive 10,000 metres.
Well, certainly Ribeiro looks very, very, very comfortable. Of course, running alongside Paula Radcliffe, one does tend to look a lot more comfortable than your competitor. But she has run 30:48 this year, and interestingly, she has been injured since then and has just come back and had 1 or 2 races. And hasn't shown the kind of form that would indicate to you that she is capable of running really, really fast times. But again, when one has come back from injuries, one never can tell. Training often indicates to them they're going well, and they come out and give a great performance, even not have proved it in races.
Ribeiro from Radcliffe, from Simone, from O'Sullivan, from Jevtic and Vaquero as they move the race moves into its second half. With 12 laps now to go, Vaquero is back in contention again, and that's gritty running from the Spaniard. And now she's into something that she has never done before, trying to confirm her status as a world-class athlete, to reconfirm her status as a champion athlete in an event where she's in against runners who can do it, who have done it, and this one in particular, who's the best around in Europe, Fernanda Ribeiro.
Well, she certainly rolled the dice, Sonia. If this gamble doesn't work for her, it would indicate that, you know, she's not had great success lately over 5. Now she's had difficulty over 10 on what's left. So I think she's got a lot at stake here. And if she does run really well, then I think she can convince herself that she can go back down to 5, duel with the likes of Szabo, and even go back down to 1500 perhaps. But a failure here would indicate that she's got some real difficulty finding an event in which she feels at home.
Well, of course, we're still a long way from home in this, and she's still a very live contender behind Fernanda Ribeiro and Paula Radcliffe, who between them may well be feeling that it's their race. In which circumstances it might be worth recalling that Ribeiro beat Radcliffe in the European Challenge 10,000 metres this year, when she outkicked her, which you mightn't have expected in the home straight, but Radcliffe, coming in behind her, did set the British record of 30:48. Well, 8 laps to go, 3,200 metres, another 75-second lap. Sonia O'Sullivan is still very much there in 4th place with Vaquero on her shoulder, ahead of her Lydia Simon of Romania, ahead of whom is Paula Radcliffe, and the leader of the 10,000 metre championship race, Fernanda Ribeiro. On the back of it, Olivera Jevtic of Yugoslavia. But this is such a gutsy, gritty competitor for Ribeiro. Seen her down the years, so successful over the distance.
Ribeiro there seems to be wandering out towards the outside of the lane, allowing Radcliffe to come through, which again is either an indication of that she's feeling a little bit of the pressure herself, or else she wants Radcliffe to come up and help her.
Well, age difference here. Ribeiro's now 29 after all those championship successes behind her. Radcliffe just 24. And don't be deceived by that familiar bobbing head like the dog on the back shelf of a motor car. That's the way she runs, and it served her well in the past.
I think her coach is sitting in the top row here, looking up for a little guidance.
It's Radcliffe still in front from Ribeiro.
Well, certainly you have to go from survival mode into contestant mode.
And is that what she's doing now?
She's done it right now. That's what she's got to do. She's been through 20 laps where she's just tried to get through without wasting a lot of energy, run on the inside lane. She needs to come right up now and get into this race and get into an environment that she's used to being in, which is contesting over the last 2 or 3 laps in major championships.
Well, she's made her move. She's overtaken Vaquero, overtaken Simone, who almost caused her to stumble as they crossed the line last time. Vaquero looks like she's feeling the pain, which you have to say about Sonia O'Sullivan does not appear to be the case at all. Radcliffe, Ribeiro, O'Sullivan, and now a little gap developing back to Simone, Vaquero and Jevtic.
Well, what Sonia would like to see here is the top 3 move away from the rest of the field, so she doesn't have to worry about being on the outside of the lane, protecting her position from Simone behind her, and she can just be there in the top 3 and waiting to strike. She'd rather not have to look over her shoulder and concern herself with someone potentially coming from behind.
O'Sullivan behind Ribeiro, and in front it's Paula Radcliffe. Those are lapped runners, and runners about to be lapped ahead of them. 3 minutes 6.78 for the last kilometre. It's quickened all right after a very leisurely opening. Radcliffe, Ribeiro, O'Sullivan. Forget about the presence of 9:28 there. Hilda Hovdenak of Norway. She's being lapped by the leader, Paula Radcliffe. And then it's Fernanda Ribeiro, and then it's Sonia O'Sullivan, then Lydia Simone, and then Jevtic. Baquero has been dropped. Olivia Jevtic is now 5th. 2 laps to go. Paula Radcliffe leads. Fernanda Ribeiro 2nd. Sonia O'Sullivan 3rd. A very competitive 10,000 metres. There's still 6 in contention, possibly only 5 now, as Jevtic brings up the rear of the leading group, and Baquero has been dropped. Radcliffe, Ribeiro, O'Sullivan, Simone, and Jevtic. Those 5, and they have 700 metres to go.
Looked like for a moment there Radcliffe was going to break that 3 away from the rest of the group. O'Sullivan needs to move out now, get right on Ribeiro's shoulder. She needs to protect this position and make sure that she's in the type of position she ought to be in when you come to 500 metres from home in a championship race.
Well, it's just coming up to 600 metres from home now, and it's still Radcliffe with Ribeiro looking ominous and relaxed in her wake. Then it's O'Sullivan, then it's Simone, and then it's Jevtic, and it's between these 5.
O'Sullivan looks good as you look at the close-up right here. She looks like she's just looking at the 2 in front of her, concentrating on them. Got her mind right on what her job at hand is. And I think we could face here the patented Sonia O'Sullivan surge over the last lap.
Well, it's Radcliffe, Ribeiro, O'Sullivan, Simone, and we've only to think back to the World Championship in Gothenburg when it was Ribeiro and O'Sullivan down the back straight and into the final bend, and with 150 to go, Sonia went for it. Now Radcliffe's trying to go for it, but Ribeiro and O'Sullivan won't go away. Gothenburg was a glory night for Sonia O'Sullivan when she left Fernanda Ribeiro in her wake. Can she do the same here? It's Radcliffe, it's Ribeiro who's going now. O'Sullivan has to respond. Radcliffe is spent, O'Sullivan goes too. Ribeiro and O'Sullivan. Radcliffe tries to dig deep, but O'Sullivan on the shoulder of Ribeiro, where she wants to be, looking determined. Ribeiro from O'Sullivan. Radcliffe tries to get back up the inside, but O'Sullivan is perfectly placed to kick for home. The big question now is, has she got the kick? Ribeiro leads O'Sullivan. Radcliffe is 3rd and failing. Simone comes, O'Sullivan goes 150 metres from home. She's done it again. Gothenburg is revisited. Helsinki is revisited. Sonia O'Sullivan is on her way to glory once more. Sonia O'Sullivan majestically down the home straight. 70 metres to go. Sonia O'Sullivan sprints for the line. It's a gold medal again for Ireland, for Sonia O'Sullivan. And what a night in Budapest as Sonia O'Sullivan's athletic career is reborn and the rest of Europe is consigned to the margins. Sonia O'Sullivan is the champion of Europe at 10,000 metres at the end of the very first 10,000 metres she's ever run on the track. What a performance, what a masterful race she ran, tactically superb, supreme in every department. At 150 from home, off she went, headed for home, and Sonia's gold is in the bag. A night of huge drama, enormous success, and one must also acknowledge manifest relief for Ireland's greatest woman athlete of the moment.
Well, certainly she's proven to us that this year she's had the endurance. She's run 2 World Cross Country Championships in 1 year, but she's also run 4:02, 4:03 minute 1500 meter run races, which give you, those are fast times, and so she's really got the advantage as you get closer to home. And she did what her task at hand was, which was to stay in the race, to run on the inside lane as much as she could, to conserve her energy, and then to show us what she's always shown us over the last 300 of a major championship. And you could see when Ribeiro went, she just didn't have the type of energy that Sonia had.
Look at the smile. That tells the story, the better than words ever could do. She's back. She's back.
Well, unquestionably, we would have all thought she was back in the World Cross Country Championships, but for a track runner, redemption comes on the track, and she had to prove to herself that she was again capable of being a major champion over those track races. Longer distance or shorter distances, makes no difference.
And Paula Radcliffe, what a disappointment for her. 5th she finished. And the Irish track fans who follow Sonia and the team the world over are here to savour the moment. And what a moment it is to savour. Harry O'Gorman plants the kiss on her cheek. Sonia O'Sullivan takes the flag and holds it aloft. There's no need for a pole or a stick or anything like it now. Gothenburg, the memories of that night when everyone took her up wrongly are forgotten. She's got the tricolour, she's got the gold medal, and she's got the energy to do a lap of honour that would do credit to a 400 metre runner. What a night. What a great performance. Beating the best that Europe could offer and confirming herself again as the top in her discipline, a discipline that she's only just taken to. Having soldiered through the long, long kilometres, she finally got to 150 from home and went for it. And got her gold medal, a second European gold to add to the 3,000 metres from Helsinki 4 years ago, and a world champion over 5 in Gothenburg, and now a European champion over 10 in Budapest.
Well, she's changed her coach this year, she's changed her training. I think her major challenge this year was to find her form again. She's done that. She's trained a lot differently than she's ever trained before. She's done a lot more endurance work, and that showed today. But I think she also showed today that she's still got some legs on her. She looked very, very impressive as she came down the last 150 metres.
Who died in Oma. Teresa Recio, third in the Spanish Championships, 368, Blondie Ducret of France, 1168, Olga Yegorova of Russia, and then Una English. And 229 is Marta Dominguez of Spain. Twelve and a half laps of the track. Sonia O'Sullivan, one would imagine, with the pressure off. Having won that 10,000 metres, now going for what would be an unprecedented double. Una English taking up position on the outside, behind Sonia, who's on the shoulder of Blondie Ducret, who's the early leader, the French woman. 229, Marta Dominguez, Spain. Gabriela Chabot, right on the shoulder of Sonia O'Sullivan. That's Una English just moving up. What a wonderful position to be in, having already won the 10,000 metre championship, to be going for this double. Frank O'Mara.
Yeah, as we've seen in many of the distance races at these championships, it's very slow from the beginning. Only one athlete this year has broken 15 minutes for 5,000 metres. That's the Spanish athlete. And you would have expected slow anyway, but I think under these circumstances, with so few athletes running quickly this year over 5,000, it will be quite slow. Interestingly, a couple of athletes with some good 1,500 metre speed in here. Sonia obviously run 4:01.05 this year, and Szabo's run very, very fast. Doesn't like the slow pace, goes to the front there, Szabo. But also the German girl, who was a college teammate of Sonia's, the Franziska Wollheim from Germany, has run 4:01 as well. So a couple of interesting finishes at the end here.
What's Szabo up to now? She's gone into a lead, tracked by Una English and Christina de Fonseca Wollheim, the German champion. Intent on covering everything that Szabo might have in mind. Is Szabo just having a little look, saying, "You not think about doing it yourself?" But no, O'Sullivan placed on the shoulder of the Romanian. De Fonseca Wollheim in third place, Dominguez in fourth, Yevtic in fifth, and then Kopitova of Russia is in sixth place. Natalie Vaughan and Una English are running down around the 10-11 mark.
It might be mentioned also that running in the front at this pace isn't necessarily a disadvantage. I think the variable that we have to take into account, though, is the wind. You can see right there how the wind is blowing her hair back. It is really quite windy out here. She's not running all that fast, though, so I think she's probably decided that in this slow pace that she may be better off being in the front and out of danger.
Still Szabo from O'Sullivan, De Fonseca Wollheim. Yevtic just dislodged a little bit. And closing on her.
As we watch Sonia there, excuse me, George, sometimes indicative of how well she's feeling. When she's concentrating really well, she tends to look down quite a bit, and her feet are at the feet of the athlete in front of her, and she does seem to be doing that quite a bit today. So I would imagine she's feeling comfortable. I would also imagine she ought to be feeling comfortable at this pace.
Yes, it's Szabo, O'Sullivan, De Fonseca Wollheim, just as it's been.
good
this.
run.
6 laps to go.
A good run here is so important to Sonia. She has had a great championship season so far as she did win both the long and short distance at the World Cross Country Championships and the 10,000 metres, but she still has to reclaim some of that form that she had clearly lost over the shorter distances of 1,500, 3,000 metres and 5,000. She is running still quite fast this year. 4:01 is only 3 seconds, or less than 3 seconds actually, off her personal best. So she still has it in her legs. She just needs to find that confidence again. So I think this run is so important that she gets out there and feels really good and sort of banishes the poor experiences she's had at the last 2 major championships, the Worlds last year in Athens and the Olympic Games in Atlanta.
And the curve, as was suggested earlier in the week, would appear to be ever upwards now. Seville beckons next year for the World Championships, and then of course Sydney 2000.
Should also be mentioned that the weather here has really been quite conducive to distance running. Looking in the paper of the last couple of days, the temperatures in Seville are somewhere around 35, 36 degrees Celsius, so at this time of year, which is going to be really quite warm. And of course Sydney should be quite warm as well, maybe not quite that bad, but has been really nice here for the distance runners. I think that's helped Sonia quite a bit. Watching Szabo there running on the outside of lane 1, excuse me. She's getting a little tired of this now. She's been out there for 8 laps in front. I don't think she's going to get any takers, especially from Sonia though.
No, indeed not. It's a championship race. It's she who wins who matters, and no favours will be done. Pace slackened somewhat. They're now on schedule for a 15:25, 5,000 metres, which is relatively leisurely. And then Jevtic, Sandel. They've dropped the German Christina da Fonseca-Wollheim.
One can see Sonia moving wide here again. As you move into the last 3-4 laps of a major championship race, that's when the positioning is important. The fact that Sonia's been here on Szabo's shoulder for the last 8 or 9 laps is of no benefit to her if she's not there when it really counts. And when it counts, is over the last 2-3 laps. So what Sonia's trying to do here is to move out a little bit so that she makes any of the athletes behind her have to run wide to get round, and they can't block her in that way. So running very smartly here. I think she's aware they're coming to 3 laps to go. It's time for her to put her racing brain in gear and for her to strike at the time that she feels is most opportune.
Yes, absolutely. That was the point she made after the 10,000 metres, that it had been a question of running just to be there for the first, well, the large part of the race, but then when it got serious with 3-4 laps to go, then it became altogether different. It was no longer a matter of endurance, it was a race. She had to stay with them to be in position over the early phase of the race into the latter stages, and then it became a race. Almost like pursuit cycling in a way. They've got to do this, but it gets decided at this kind of pace, at this kind of stage in the race.
It's also mentally an advantage coming down from 10,000 metres where you've been through the difficulties of having to mentally challenge 25 laps of the track. All of a sudden you're running a race half the length, 12 and a half laps of the track, and it's quite mentally easier to do that, having been through the longer distance.
Well, interesting, there's Josely Lado, of the European cross-country champion of last year, has dropped out. So too we saw earlier Svetlana Baigulova, the Russian champion. It may be leisurely, but it's not easy. And the distance that these 5 have put between them and the rest, with Christina da Fonseca-Wollheim 60 metres behind, and a long way back to Valerie Vaughan and Una English, that really you've got to commend the class of these athletes, that they have, in a slow time, managed to put that distance between them. And now it gets really serious with just less than 800 metres to go. It's Szabo from O'Sullivan, and then it's Marta Dominguez, the only woman under 15 minutes this season. Jevtic and Sandel of Finland. Those 5 lead the race. The medals will be decided between them.
Going through Sonia's mind right now is just see her look over her shoulder right there. Is she doesn't want anybody to come up and interrupt her race pattern here. She's where she wants to be. She feels a little crowded with all these athletes running behind her, and she wants to make sure no one gets up and gets in her way. She's focused completely on when she's going to strike or when she's going to respond to a strike from Szabo.
Now in the 10,000 metres, it was just there that she struck on the last lap. When next they're on the crowd of the bend, will she be in that position once more? the position to strike Szabo. It's going to be some wind up for the finish. Szabo leads, O'Sullivan second, Marta Dominguez, the Spaniard, is third, and Olivera Jeftic is now moving up the outside, deciding that if she's got a chance, she's got to go now. It interrupted Sonia's stride, but she has decided to respond. This is the time, and has just burned off the challenge of the European Under-23 champion and gone in chase of Szabo. Jeftic tried to move. It was a forlorn hope on her part, and it's cost her any chance of a medal, because it's now between the three in front. Sandel's dropped, Jeftic has dropped. It's Szabo, O'Sullivan and Dominguez now as they go down the back straight, the decisive moments of this race. The medals surely now between these three. They burned off Jeftic. Szabo tries to go for it. O'Sullivan responds. Szabo injecting the pace there, and Dominguez is sticking there as well. Who would put money on whom at this point? Szabo, O'Sullivan and Dominguez between these three as they hit the crowd of the bend. Sonia O'Sullivan burned off Fernando Ribeiro in the 10,000 metres by going for home from this position. Can Szabo hold on? Can O'Sullivan strike? It's Szabo from O'Sullivan. Dominguez trying to come hard on the inside. O'Sullivan goes for it, and she's taken the lead. She's overtaken Szabo, and Sonia O'Sullivan is on her way to another magnificent victory. Szabo responds, but she won't do it. Sonia O'Sullivan is coming home to an unprecedented double. Sonia O'Sullivan adds to the 10,000 metre championship, the 5,000 metre championship of Europe, only the second athlete in history to do the 5,000, 10,000 double. Sonia O'Sullivan has rewritten the history books in Budapest this Sunday evening. That is simply magnificent. Sonia O'Sullivan, 5,000 metre champion of Europe, ahead of Gabriela Szabo, and she can't believe it, but it's all for real. Back down the field, here comes Valerie Vaughan to claim her place. Uda English further down the field, and a commendable performance by Valerie Vaughan, finishing now, and not so very far distant, overcoming Valseka Volheim. But Sonia O'Sullivan, what can you say about that other than the sheer magnificence, the sheer elegance, the sheer brilliance of what she has achieved in Budapest over the space of 5 days in the Hungarian capital. Wednesday evening, 10,000 metre champion of Europe in her first competitive 10,000 metres. Sunday evening in the Hungarian capital, champion of Europe for the second time, effectively retaining the title that she won in Helsinki, because the 5,000 now replaces the 3,000 that there was there. It wasn't 150 to go, it was more like 100 to go, and Sonia O'Sullivan went. Szabo tried to respond, but the Romanian was destroyed by the magnificent stride of the Cove athlete. Sonia O'Sullivan is home for only the second 5,000, 10,000 double in history. The only other athlete to do it, Wang Yongxia, at the Asian Championships in 1995.